Stargirl is honestly my favorite new show. Like, I love everything about this. And for those of you who don't know, this show was created for DC Universe, the streaming service, and it's airing on there a day before the CW, and then it's on the CW. So I don't have DC Universe, so these reviews aren't going to be coming out until after the CW has aired its episode. So I just wanted to put that out there, and yeah, so like I said, DC Universe to CW. There's a big difference between this show and the regular Arrowverse CW shows, like The Flash and Arrow and stuff like that. Because the CGI on this is so good. It's almost like movie level. I love it. I love everything about this show, but especially the CGI. It just looks so good. And the music's really good. I love the music. So much music. Well, actually, not a lot of music, but the music that is in this episode, fantastic. It really gives this show like a classic feel, like classic vibes kind of. But anyways, now that that's out of the way, let's jump right into the episode and go over everything that happened in episode 1 of Stargirl. So we start off the episode 10 years in the past, and it's Christmas Eve, and I love Christmas, so I'm already into this show. And you know, you got the Christmas music, of course, and we see that Pat Dugan, he's in his car, and he is racing to try and save the JSA because he's gotten a distress call, and they're in trouble. And then when he shows up, half of them are dead. So he sees Wildcat, Hourman, Dr. Midnight, and we also see Jay Garrick's helmet, so we know that Jay Garrick exists here, but he's probably dead. And they're all fighting the Injustice Society, including Wizard, Icicle, Tigress, Sportsmaster, Solomon Grundy, and Brainwave. But then Starman shows up, and then he gets icicled by Icicle, and then he's gonna die, but Pat is trying to save him, so they're racing off to get to a safe place, but then Solomon Grundy chases after them, and we don't get a good look at Solomon Grundy, which I'm fine with, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how this character looks, because he was mostly in the shadows for this episode, from what we saw of him. And then Starman obviously dies, but his last words are basically saying that the Justice Society of America has to live on, and that the torch has to be passed on. And I love that his final line was, "Pat, you were a good friend." So I really like that. But then we move over to young Courtney Whitmore. It's the same night that all of that is happening. She's at her home. It's Christmas Eve, and she has a present for her father, but she's not going to show up. And I wonder what the significance of this gift is, because we also see it a little bit later in the episode as well. So I wonder, what is inside that peppermint wrapped box? So I'm interested if it has any significance, because we don't really know for sure. But then after that, we move on to present day. Courtney and her family is moving away, but she doesn't like Pat. So it was her and her mother, and then Pat and Mike, and now they've become a family. They're moving from California to Nebraska, and you know. So, like I said, Courtney doesn't like Pat because she blames him for having to move away. We see Mike, which is Pat's son. He's hilarious. I love his character. He really fits in here well. He's the comedic relief here. Also, I love their dog. Their dog's adorable, of course. So like I said, California to Nebraska. Now they got a new house, and they have to all adjust to a brand new life, especially Courtney, because she is now going to a new school. And one of the main selling points of going to that school is she wanted to be on the gymnastics team, because that's what she loved to do. But they don't have a gymnastics team, at least not anymore. So that sucks. Meanwhile, we also see Pat. He has bought this garage that he's going to fix up and, do some stuff there. But then we meet Larry Croc, aka the Crusher. He apparently owns a gym just down the street, and he introduces himself. And what you may not know is that he is actually one of the villains of this season, Sportsmaster. At least I think he is. I mean, it makes sense because there's a lot of hidden villains here. A lot of the villains are hidden characters throughout the show. We see this with Brainwave also. But he owns a gym. He's into exercising and weightlifting and stuff, so obviously he would be Sportsmaster. But then back to school time with Courtney. We see her teacher, or one of the teachers, is telling her where there is available seating, and I have a feeling that she is Tigress. And then she has to go sit at the loser table with the future JSA, because they're going to all become superheroes and team up to take down the Injustice Society. But then some bullies come over, and they bully Yolanda. I don't know her name. They never actually said her name in the episode. But they call her a slut and everything, so sounds like we're going to get an interesting story with her. But then Courtney stands up for her, and then she gets hauled off to the principal's office because she, hits the bully. So, I don't get why no teacher punishes, the bullies, but, whatever. And we see also Cindy. She's the bully's girlfriend. I believe she's also going to be a villain in this season as well. So like I said, lots of hidden characters here throughout the episode. But when we get back home, the day has ended. Mike is doing great in Nebraska. Courtney not so much. So she heads down to the basement to, have some alone time. And that is when she finds Pat's JSA stuff. She finds a photo of the whole JSA team. She finds the staff, of course, which helps her become Stargirl, basically. And then it, takes her outside, because the staff is in control. It's literally alive. It has a mind of its own. So they end up at the drive-in, where the Goonies is playing, so nice connection there. But she sees that the bullies are there, so she decides to put on a bandana around her mouth or face, and then she's going to go use the staff to try and, save the day and take down the bullies. So she goes to do that, but she doesn't know how to control the staff, so she accidentally blows up a car, so oopsie. That didn't really go too well. But then when she finally arrives back at the house, she plans on just, putting the staff back in the crate. But then when she gets back to the basement, Pat is there waiting for her because he knows what happened now. And then he basically gives her the whole explanation, how he was Stripesy, Starman's sidekick, and how the JSA was this whole thing, and how on that Christmas Eve, the JSA died. Because according to the public, the JSA were these superheroes, and they fought crime for years, but then they just disappeared that one night. But no, they did. So, yeah, it's not like they gave up hope and just stopped defending the city. No, they did. So there's not much they can do. So you can kind of see the bond starting to grow there between Courtney and Pat, and I like that. That's going to be a focal point of the series, is the bond and relationship between those two, especially because they started off Pat wanting to just be a father to her, but Courtney just wanting her actual father, and she not liking him, basically. So when she finds out all this stuff about the JSA, and she sees the photo of the JSA again, she looks at Starman, and then she has this necklace, around her neck, and it has a photo of her father in it. And then she compares it to the photo, and she realizes that Starman and her father look very similar. They're both Joel McHale. So she thinks that Starman is her father, because that is why she can wield the staff, because nobody is supposed to be able to use the staff other than Starman. But if she's Starman's daughter, then that would make sense. But this is not the case in the comics, so I'm not sure if it actually is here, or if it's just kind of thrown in there to be something to make you think about it. I kind of think it is the case, I think this is what's happening here. I think Starman is her father, because, I mean, why else would she be able to use the staff? But also that would kind of make things awkward, because then it would be like, alright, so if Starman was with Courtney's mom, and then he died or disappeared, then automatically Starman's sidekick gets with her. Like, that's just wrong, but we don't know for sure if he's her father or not, so we'll have to wait until we find out more about that. But then we shift over to the bully that was at the drive-in, and he is telling his father about this whole incident, how there was this person running around with a glowy staff, and you can tell that he's kind of scared of his father, because he was acting really tough at school and around everybody else, but then when he's around his father, he looks really scared, so I don't know if maybe he's getting abused or something. But then after he leaves the room, we see that his father is Brainwave, and in the future, possibly his son, the bully, as I call him, because I don't know his actual name, could possibly become Brainwave Jr., if something happens to Brainwave Sr. But now that Brainwave knows that somebody has the staff out there, he wants to take him down, because he doesn't want anyone out there that has that kind of power that can stand in his way. So he grabs his Brainwave suit, and then he heads out. And he's looking for Courtney, but he doesn't know that yet. And then we have a kind of porch talk with Courtney and Pat, another bonding moment between those two, and he tells her basically the origin of Starman and Stripesy. So basically, Starman, he was 15 years old, Pat was 20. Pat worked for their family, he was like their driver and stuff, but then one day Starman's parents were threatened by criminals, so then he put on a mask and stopped them, and then Pat helped them, so he just kind of became his sidekick while he was the Star-Spangled Kid, and then Starman got the staff and actually became Starman, and then, he joined the JSA, and everything else happened like that. So that's what happened there. I think it's a really interesting story. I enjoyed hearing that origin, so you can really dive deeper into the mythology of these characters. I really like that kind of stuff in these shows. But that night, Courtney's sleeping, and then she wakes up to see the staff right in front of her face, because, like I said, it's alive, so it has a mind of its own. And then it takes her outside, flies her somewhere, and it wants her to do some training. So she does some training, and of course at first she messes up, but then after her first try she messes up, but then her second try she does really well. And I like that they kind of have an explanation for that, because normally for most people it would be, they would keep messing up, and then after 20 tries they would get it, but with her second try she got it. But that's kind of because she took gymnastics for so long. That's why she could do all these crazy flips and stuff. So I like that you kind of have an explanation for that, although at the same time, can you really do a flip onto that staff and balance on that staff and then jump off and catch it on just your second try, even if you've been doing gymnastic for years? So I don't know about that, but I do like that you have that a little bit of explanation there with the gymnastics and everything. But then as she's flying around, she gets taken out of the sky, and she lands in this tire place. And Brainwave is there. He is the one that took her out of the sky, and now there's this really cool battle with him using tires and stuff, and he's talking to her telepathically, so you hear his voice, but his mouth isn't moving. So I thought that was really cool there as well. But then all of a sudden he disappears, and then Courtney ends up outside, and then this giant robot shows up, and if you've seen the trailers and stuff, and anything promotional for this show, that is Stripe, the robot, and then we find out that Pat is the driver for that. So we already knew that he was going to be Stripe for this, but the thing I find confusing about this is, did he have this robot the whole time? Because in the photos that we saw in the basement of Pat as Stripe, he just had like a striped shirt on and stuff for his costume, while Starman had his suit and everything. So is this like a new robot? Because he clearly didn't have back then. Back then he literally just wore a shirt, and all he did was he was basically just Starman's assistant, and like kept his suit clean and drove him places basically. So I'm not sure where this robot came from. I had a theory while I was watching this that maybe as the episodes would go on, it would show that he was working on something at that garage that he bought, but then it just shows up here. So maybe it is something that was at the garage, but I'm not sure completely yet. But yeah, that is exactly where the episode ends, and it basically ends on that cliffhanger, even though, we kind of already knew that he was Stripe. But I really love this. I can't say enough good things about this episode. I just love it. I mean, I'm at a loss for words. I don't know. So just let me know all your thoughts on this episode down in the comments below. And what do you think is going to happen next? I put in some predictions here for some of the hidden villains, like Sportsmaster being that gym guy, Tigress being the teacher from Courtney's school, Brainwave being the bully's father, and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where this show goes from here and what's going to happen next, because we got some really interesting stories going on here. And a big question coming out of this episode, another one, is Starman Courtney's father? So please let me know all your thoughts, all your theories, all your ideas down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the like button, because it really does help out my channel and help me grow to, get more people watching these videos. And yeah, so smash the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.